Dempsey is an 11-year-old girl. She loves pink and stuffed animals and was born as a biological boy. She lives with her parents in Florida.
You know, she started putting pajama pants on her head and making pretend that was hair. So this was before she even spoke.
I was really sad before I transitioned, and I knew something was different about me. So when my parents finally decided to take me to a toy store, I'd always just go to the girl aisle, and I just always feel so much more happy seeing the pink and all those beautiful colors. And I knew I was different, and I knew in my brain, in my heart, I'm a girl.
But then we started seeing she was being very persistent with that, and only wanted to play with girl toys. And so, eventually we started seeing just kind of a pattern. She was very persistent with that. And even it got then to a point where when we used to take her to get a haircut, it was awful. Now that we look back at it, you would think as a little kid, it's okay, they cry. Some kids don't like their hair getting cut. But when we think back, we realize that it was very traumatic for her.
I think the first 4 years of my life, I didn't feel like myself, and it was depressed, and it was just so bad. I needed a transition.
Thinking back, we're like, my God, we were such horrible parents for doing that, because we didn't know, but it was her just sort of going into a depression because we were taking away something she wanted to let grow.
And that was to her, everything was, her hair symbolized being a girl. Once we realized that we were doing more harm than good, we didn't know anybody that was transgender. We just started learning and researching and reading books and finding other people that were like had a kid like ours, therapists, and we just kind of followed her lead. And she said, when about five, I'm a girl in my heart and my brain, and the doctors made a mistake. I'm not a boy. I don't want you to call me a boy. And so we said, all right, this is who she is, and then it was just kind of catch up. We had 2 older sons who liked trucks and trains, and she just I don't want any of that. I want princesses, I want ponies, I want everything that was girly.
We started slow. We'd buy a dress, and she'd only be allowed to wear it in the house, and she'd sing and dance and be in this dress, and she was so happy. But then when it was time to go out, change into your clothes, your boy clothes, and we go out, and it was like a different
tantrum.
person. It was just a tantrum.
You couldn't get her out of the house.
Was almost depressed all the time whenever she was outside presenting as a boy, right? Or in traditional boy clothing. And then once we allowed her to start actually wearing the dresses out, she became a different person.
I have a really close best friend, and when I told her, I was really, really scared because she found out and I didn't even tell her. I was really, really scared, but she was like, I love you no matter what you are, and you're always going to be my best friend, and I'll always be with you. And then I have another friend. I told her I think 2 years ago, and she loves me no matter what, and she's very nice. But there was this one girl that she kept telling other people without me knowing, and that was kind of annoying. But that's how the world's going to be.
As you said, you talked to some therapists.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find them, and how was it from there on? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
If it was on a Facebook group or something that you joined, and then somebody, word of mouth, somebody recommended, and they started going into a group in Broward, and then sort of made connections from there on, and then just kind of built a network, of people that were supportive or people that were just trying to figure it out.
Doctors aren't easy to find. They're really not, because we had her pediatrician at the time told us that we were freaks and child abusers, and was talking, bad-mouthing us to other doctors in the practice who we found out from that they were in. So,
well, she said it was a phase. I took her to the doctor just for shots or whatever it was, and she had a doll, or I forgot what it was, and she was like, well, what is, I thought, isn't this a boy? And I'm like, well, yeah, and they like to play with girl things, and, oh, that's just a phase, they'll grow out of it, and I think for a doctor, which is a lot of times the only advice you're going to get, professional, right? If the doctor is saying that,
dismissing it,
and you're not open-minded, you're going to listen to the doctor and say, okay, it's just a phase, you're going to grow out of it, stop playing with that, or at some point stop playing with that. And that's obviously how she felt, and that's, you know, what she was portraying to us. And so what are we supposed to do, you know? And so if you don't seek that second opinion, you might be closed-minded and just say, okay, the doctor says this, that's what it is.
She was diagnosed with gender dysphoria. And so we were like, okay, well, now we have this diagnosis. So where do we go from here? That was actually more challenging than the diagnosis, because it was like, where do we go? She's so little. So a lot of the pushback that we get, it's not necessarily directed towards Dempsey. It's directed towards us, because they're like, you're bad parents. You're abusing her. You pushed this on her. You wanted her. You wanted a daughter so badly you made one. All of the nonsense that we hear. For you, it was more telling you that you should just give your kid a football and beat it out of them. Beat it out of them. We got a lot too.
Well, I mean, in Miami, it's primarily Hispanic too. A lot of Hispanic, and my background is Hispanic as well. So that's just, you know, it's hit, right? So hit the child until beat it out of them. And so this is what I heard from people. And I'm like, that's not going to that's not going to help any situation here. I mean, that's abuse. That's abuse.
Ron DeSantis might become the next president of the United States.
Yes, he might. That terrifies me. It terrifies me. We have our passports updated, and do we have exit plans in place? Yes. If that happens, we're going to have to leave the country. And I've never lived anywhere outside the United States. We've traveled, but I don't know. I'm terrified.
Well, I mean, just looking at what he's done just in Florida, and it's not just against trans people, it's against everybody.
Immigrants,
it's
Black people.
Silencing anything that he doesn't like, let's just silence it.
And when will he stop? And that's what I often say to people. It's like, it might not be affecting you yet, but they will come for you next. And that's the scary part.
All the people arguing and taking away my rights is just not okay for kids like me. And I get really scared to just walk out of my home, because I know like there's gonna be that one person that's always gonna be like scared of me, thinking like I'm a monster or something, but I'm not.
And now you have an invitation to the White House.
Yes.
What does this mean for you that President Biden invites you and your kids?
Proud, overwhelmed. Like, how did we get here? You know?
What would you tell him?
Keep doing what you're doing, and please fight harder for my rights and the other kids like me. Like, yeah.
Kids like Dempsey currently have the full support of the President of the United States. However, that could change after next year's presidential elections.